was built here. Where you came across the railroad tracks used to be a mound. There were 4 to 6 mounds here, and the population was about 4 to 6,000 people. That's something that happened caused them to take down all the mounds that were here and rebuild it in this shape right here. And we will be able to see this. See Mound A right here?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's Mound A right there behind you. All the mounds are orientated north-south except Mound A. Mound A is rotated about 45 degrees. And what they think this is, you see the hand and the eye right here? This Mound A represents the eye, or the portal to the next world, and all the mounds are the palm. And these mounds out here, these grooves right here, are the fingers. And they did do terraforming. These grooves, these gullies though, were not recorded until 1901. This place was actually started or built into this area right here around AD 800. So they had 500 years to erode after the Native Americans left. And we do know they did terraforming. Obviously, they built the mounds. Okay. Now, second thing. All of these mounds, if you look at them, are arranged a large mound, a small mound, a large mound, a small mound, a large mound, a small mound. They think that normally the way it worked was your higher status clans are on the northern end. Here, they think your higher status villages. These may have been the people that were actually here. These mounds right here were built by entire villages that packed up and moved here, or entire groups of people. To give you an idea of what we're talking about here when I say the mounds are taken down, is that little bitty low little hump right through there?
Yes, sir.
There's some people that think that's the remnants of a mound. Incidentally, they don't know how many mounds are here. There's some discussion. This says 26, Mound A through Z. But actually, now they're saying there may be as many as 38. And they are actually excavating one. Now, let's go over here to the top of Mound B, because we don't have a whole lot of time.
You want to keep these, and
While we're
you
doing
think they
that
could
here,
keep them? I'm just thinking that they'll probably drop them all over the place.
I give them to them. I give them good on above.
Okay.
Just something to have.
And I'm going to go around to let the museum know about the schedule change and all.
Okay.
And that y'all will be coming in there before we had you originally scheduled to come in.
Okay, that sounds good.
And I'll be back. Did Bill know that y'all need to leave by 12?
Yeah, he know.
Okay.
Yes,
all right.
ma'am.
Well, I'll be back. I'll meet y'all either around by the riverbank or at the museum.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. All right, so we're on a field trip tonight to study the Mississippian culture. A lot of people don't know that a lot of pyramids or mounds have been built down here. That has been built down here. And just taking the kids on to get a vision, because right now we're studying Mississippian culture, studying Native Americans, for the lack of a better word. We know that they are not Native Americans. These people being here way before Amerigo Vespucci came over here. That's where the name America come from. It derived from him. So we're gonna go up to the top of this big mound and see what we can find. You can do anything, my brother.
Nah, I was working on legs the other day.
That's like the power of the mind. Everything is mental. Hold these for me. Keep a hold of these for me while I hold the camera. Wow, that's a nice view.
Okay. All right. Got everybody? Okay, come on over here. All right. Now you can see we're right here on top of Mount B. This is what's called a step mound. See it slanted? I actually think it had a step. Now, every mound here was built in less than 50 years. But the mounds were not as tall. See that little bitty low one right there? Okay, that's about how big most of your mounds were, maybe a little bit taller, but about that size. All the mounds here have been recapped anywhere from 8 to 20 times. They say they were recapped about every 50 years. There really isn't a actual period of how long they were. And second thing is, somebody always asks about, are there people buried here? Well, yes and no. These mounds were built for ceremonies. They actually have, see how big this house is? The structures here on top of these mounds were actually small, very small. Just basically large enough for like one person. Not even a man and a wife, just one person. Now, when whoever lived on top of this mound died, they would dig a hole in the mound, they would bury him, and then they would recap it. And what they would do is they would run a basket line out of these gullies. The women would be filling up the baskets. The men would be passing the baskets full of sand up here, or the sandy loam. You can see this is pretty sandy. Passing it up here, they'd be putting another layer on here. Then they'd go to the bottom of these gullies. They'd put a layer of clay over the top. Little kids would run the baskets back. Again, this whole place was built in a 50-year period. It was occupied for about 400 years, and they continued to do this several times. They recapped these several times. This one, for example, has been recapped more than 20 times. How many times? They don't know. Part of that was because when the CCC came through here in the 1930s, they took a survey instrument, they shot the top of it with the survey instrument, and leveled the mound off to that highest point. And you can see right over here, we have a drainage system on the top of this one, because if you look right over here, you can see where part of it has slid off. And these mounds, you can always see where they're sliding off. You can see the humps right here where they're sliding off.
Right.
That's one of the reasons why y'all need to stay back from the edge.
Let me get my hand.
Okay, now let's move right back over here.
What you had to tell us about the steps?
What's that?
What you had to tell us about the steps?
The steps. Okay. How many people got 72?
I got 78.
Okay, how many people got 73?
I got room.
How many people got 74? How many people got 75? 76? 77? 78? 79? 80? Okay, the correct answer is 74. Okay, now, if you go by the OSHA, that's U.S. Government Office of Safety Management, there's 78. There are actual 74 physical steps. University of Alabama Engineering Department came in, built this. OSHA came in, inspected it, said, no, it's too steep. Used to be 81 steps on it then. So they came back through there, made it appropriate for the OSHA, and now there are 74 steps on it, but OSHA says there are 78. If you go down there and look, some of them have 2 boards and some of them have 3. All the ones that have 3, OSHA counted as 2 steps. But as far as physical steps, there are 74.
Okay.
But their official steps, there are 78. So if you got 74 or 78, you're right. All right, come on, let's walk over here.
I thought we were going to the house.
Oh no, we ain't done yet.
I can roll back down the other way.
I can't.
What's that? Well, you'll stop when you get to the bottom. Yes, but, you know, or maybe one of those nice stumps will stop you rolling and everything, you know. Okay. All right. Now, what we have out here, this is actually back here, this large flat area is actually the largest mound in Moundville. It's a little over 2 acres. That is actually an underground lodge.
Wow.
built that whole area right there. This ramp right here went from the top down into the lodge. Now, a little known fact about the Mississippian culture. If you were considered to be the paramount chief or the leader of the village, and you lived on top of this mound, your feet were not allowed to touch the ground if you left it. You would literally be carried everywhere you went. During a battle with the Appalachee, that's the one the Appalachian Mountains were named after, DeSoto and his 2,000 guys chased about 350 Appalachee into a swamp. This is in October. They said it was chest deep water. The next morning, most of the Native Americans were just about dead from exposure. They've still discovered that there would be 4 guys out there holding the chief on their shoulders. They would not let his feet touch the ground. Even though they were freezing to death, they would not let the chief's feet touch the ground. Now, why was that? Good question. When people knew the answer to that, nobody thought to ask them. You'll find a lot of that stuff out here about a lot of Native American stuff. Now, this was a lodge, and apparently you have the ramp here, you have this ramp here. The ramp went down underneath there, and this whole area was underground. These are apparently the only areas where the chief could actually walk. And he would go underneath there. Now, we've had some really hot weather and everything. Anybody here know what the average temperature of a cave is?
No.
It's the same everywhere, 68 degrees.
68 degrees, wow.
Yes. So, if you were the chief and you lived up here and it's 105, because they were in the middle of what's called the medieval warm period, you could go, I need to have a meeting. And you would go down in here and you would go into your 68-degree cave. And you would sit there, and you and all the rest of the lesser chiefs and the clan leaders would come in there, and you would sit down and you would have a meeting about stuff. Whereas the women would go out with a hoe and work in the gardens. And the men would sit in the shade and drink casatilla, which is a drink, the only caffeine-bearing drink here in North America, and plan the next hunt, or how they're going to go burn out the neighbors. I'm not kidding, okay? One little thing here. The only way for a man to gain status, I won't say this had a caste system, but it did have a clan system, and some clans were more important than others. The only way for a man, you, to impress her was by being a great warrior. You could be the greatest craftsman, you could be the greatest hunter and everything. You wanted to impress chicks, you had to kill an enemy warrior in hand-to-hand combat, scalp him, bring his hair back, and show it to her. Okay, now, do not judge them by our modern standards. Sorry, I'm spitting all over you, I'm sorry. Okay, do not judge them by our modern standards. All right, the standards of the time was, if your village was noted for having great warriors, when somebody wanted to gain status to impress women, he'd go somewhere else. So basically, if your village was noted for having great warriors, then quite simply, that meant that if you did get married, and oh yes, by the way, this is a matrilineal society, you would marry him. He wouldn't marry you. Okay?
What matrilineal mean?
From the mother.
From the mother.
From the mother.
What
yes.
type of society we live in now? Patrilineal.
Mm-hmm. So, yes. So that means that basically, guys, you spent your entire life making sure that your wife was impressed. Because when she married you, you moved into her clan area. If you are Eagle Clan, which is very high status, and you're Fox Clan, all your children become Eagle Clan. Okay? And oh yes, if you stay up and play Chunky, which is a gambling game, and drink casatilla all night, which incidentally the Yopon Holly has 6 times the amount of caffeine. The tobacco back then had about 15 times the amount of nicotine, so when you smoked a pipe, you got a buzz. Okay? If you don't do like a man should do, she would roll your stuff up in a blanket. You heard that little saying about putting your stuff out in the street? Mm-hmm. Guess what? It's where the first people here saw the Native Americans. If you just get tired of him, you take his stuff, you roll it up, out on the street it goes. You get to go home and live with your mother. I'm not kidding. All right? Now, here's the deal. Okay? Women were a lot more freer back then. If you wanted to talk people into taking the cassatilla, which is a major trade item, it's Rio Pond holly, if you wanted to go up to Cahokia, Illinois, which was the place that controlled all the copper, and copper was their gold, so you would bring, you would take that Yopon holly leaves, you would dry them, you would go up the Tom Bigby until it petered out, then you'd go across the Mississippi and then on up the Mississippi to Cahokia, to the Great Lakes area, and trade it for copper. If you could talk to the elders of your clan into doing it, and you could talk people into going with you, off you went. If you wanted to go burn out the neighbors and scalp somebody, you could talk the warriors and letting you go with them, off you went. Because here's the deal though, right? Here's the deal though. So, if you marry him, okay, and you get tired of him, it is a reflection on every woman in your clan if you throw him out. Men taught men to do the manly stuff. How to fight, how to hunt, how to fish, how to scalp the neighbors. Manly stuff. Women taught men how to be civilized. Incidentally, you would not raise your own children. Your brother would raise them. Okay, you would make sure that they are, no, seriously, you would make sure that they have food and clothing and everything, but the way they looked at it was an aunt or an uncle, depending on whether the child was male or female, is close enough to love them, but far enough away that they can see their faults. Okay? Because an uncle is not going to go, oh, gee, that's cute. That's so cute what you just did. Uncle's going to go, what in the hell did you do that for? That was stupid. Don't do that kind of dumb stuff. Okay? So an uncle or an aunt raised them. Now, incidentally, starting at about age 4, you went to school. All right? You learned how to make a pot. You learned how to hunt. You learned how to fish. You learned how to fight. And they did teach you how to fight. And girls went to those same things, too. But starting about age 12 or 13, the girls would, and the boys would sort of split up. And the girls got to learn things like which plants are medicinal plants and how do you prepare these medicinal plants. The boys would concentrate more on fighting. Incidentally, girls, you would have learned starting at about age 4 how to use a war club. Now, female warriors, let's see, how tall are you?
5'4".
Okay, that's about the average height of a woman. Put your arm out.
Lady.
Okay, now put your arm straight out toward me. Okay, now you'll notice I can touch her and she still can't touch me. When you're fighting with a war club, that 4 inches of extra difference that a man has over a woman means that I can hit you with a war club and you're going. Okay, so while there were female warriors, they weren't common. They weren't unheard of, but they weren't common. On the other hand, if I attack your village, not only can I expect every man to be a warrior, I can expect the women to fight also. So you can't be, you're really not part of the offensive capability of your village, but you can't be counted out of the defensive capability. Or, put it this way, Creek, Choctaws, Chickasaws, Casadas, Yamasee, Cusas, Talapusas, those type of women did not go, oh, the enemy is attacking, somebody please save me. They were more like, oh, the enemy is attacking, bring it. Bring it. Okay? Incidentally, if we were doing the tools and weapons, when you come to the festival, I'll show you how women actually defeated men, warriors. All right, let's move on down here.
We're going to go to the festival.
Yep, we're going back down. We're going to get on the bus. And we're going to go.